Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We are counting down now until free agency begins. In fact, as we're starting to record this, I believe we are exactly 48 hours away from the start of free agency. Let's go. This is going to be so much fun on Friday. Free agency kicks off, and we've got some news because, as expected, stuff is already starting to trickle out about what may take place. We've got some options being picked up, some being declined, other kinds of moves to dive into, lots of stuff to talk about. Before we get into all of it, though, we've seen obviously a lot more people viewing the show, listening to the show. This time of year, this is really our wheelhouse, right? So we tend to expect there to be an uptick around this time. So let me just give the quick pitch right now. For those of you who don't typically watch the show, this isn't part of your daily routine. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. We don't just do this during this time of year. We're here all year long. We've been called the best kept secret in the NBA sports world. We would like to lose that title by getting out there to even more people. And the growth we've been experiencing is absolutely fantastic. But we sure would appreciate if you guys would hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and of course, follow us over on the podcast side as well.
Yeah, I think you hit all of it, man. I got nothing to add other than just do what the man said. Go click a couple buttons. It's not that hard to click buttons. I'm gonna check right now while we're live on the show and see where we're at. And I'm gonna put the challenge out there to Front Office Nation. We are at 216 ratings on Apple. Not bad. That's good. Happy with that. Mm-hmm. Let's try to get that up to 225 by, I'm going to ask by the start of our free agency show on Friday night. So that's 2 days. That's 9 realistic. Of you can go in there and give a rating. So please get it up to 225 and we'll go. I will add this too. So they didn't have nothing to add, but I'm going to. A couple people asked, are we still going to have Front Office Friday on Friday? We'll see what the day looks like. But yeah. You will have a live show Friday night where Trevor and I sit down and we kind of go through. It will be late for those of you on the East Coast. For those of you on the West Coast, it'll probably be kind of late-ish for you too. It's generally, sometime around midnight or so is when we'll probably go through. We generally go live. We kind of go through the days, whatever happened to that day's deals and give our thoughts. And if the last couple of years are any indication, we'll get probably one or two more things that come out during that. We won't go live right at the start of free agency. No. It's just too busy. There's too many things going on, and it just wouldn't be a very good show, to be quite honest with you. So, but we'll be live at some point Friday evening. We'll see how it goes earlier in the day if there's enough stuff to get into. But in reality, we'll probably be rested up for what will be a busy few days. And then right as everything starts to the initial wave slow down, we'll be jumping on airplanes and headed west to Las Vegas. That's right. Super excited. And, for me, headed west and, can't wait to get out there to Las Vegas and get into everything and, see you in person for the first time in a while, a very long time. So
literally years.
For that. Yeah, I might tackle you. I might just run up and give you the big hug tackle and take you right down. We'll see how it goes. Depends on where I see you the first time. If it won't get me arrested.
I'm picturing the scene in The Office when Michael Scott learns that Jim and Pam are engaged.
Yep.
and Jim just gets tackled from. Yeah.
Yep.
That's gonna be me.
I'm gonna Terry Tate office linebacker you right in the middle of some casino in Las Vegas and take you down.
Oh, people are gonna look around thinking I'm a card counter or something like that. Like, what did this guy do?
Let me tell you one quick thing that my wife's least favorite thing that I do to her sometimes in the store, like we'll be in Target, I'll grab her like by like the arm and I'll be like, come with me, ma'am. That'll teach you to shoplift from Target. And like we'll start walking away because she like people always look. She's like, would you stop? It's not funny. My daughter loves it. She thinks it's the funniest thing in the world. So she's my favorite audience. So of course I play to her.
Oh no. Well, that's your wife is a good sport.
She's the best.
Putting up with that. That's awesome. Though.
Eventually, at some point, this show will involve basketball. We should probably
at some point. At some point, we need to hear what she does to get revenge, because I'm sure that's the thing. But
Yeah.
Let's get to
Yeah,
basketball.
I'll tell you stories later.
um, we did have a transaction today. The Bulls get a new deal for Nikola Vucevic. 3 years, 60 million. I have not seen, and perhaps this isn't out yet, if there are any kind of options on the final year of this deal. Is it just a straight 3-year deal?
Yeah, we haven't seen no reporting on that came out where it is, Bulls have a team option or the last year's partially guaranteed or something. We don't even have the deal structure. Did this his last contract, which he signed with Orlando before being traded to Chicago, that started high and then was a descending deal. Does this mirror that? That would make a lot of sense given his age. But as far as we know right now, it's just 3 years, 60 million. Over on Spot Track, you can go look up the Bulls page. It's already in there. We plug in estimated deals. We plugged it in as 20 million a year, just because that's the easiest way to handle these things. So we'll see what that ultimately looks like with this deal. What did you think of it? Because I'm curious. There was mixed reaction from I'm gonna put them in camps of non-Bulls fans and Bulls fans.
I was surprised that it feels like they needed to pick a direction, and this is picking just kind of more of the same. I thought the Bulls might make some decisions to move on from some guys, but I also, after the initial shock of, okay, a 3-year deal, I wasn't really expecting 3 years, but once that wore off, I started thinking, this is probably hey, we're going to give you this money now, and trade deadline or next year when teams come calling, if we're really looking to rebuild, this is our guarantee that we don't lose you for nothing and you get the money that you want right now.
Yeah. I mean, whether this get done as an extension, which is what actually happened. And to be clear, this deal is done. The Bulls have already announced it. It is complete. So this is an extension that's completed. For those who are wondering too, I'll give a quick aside here. A lot of people are saying, how are Vucevic and Naz Reid already signing, but other players can, and there can't be other extensions and things. If you're extension eligible and on an expiring contract, you can extend all the way up through midnight on June 30th. It makes it super confusing because we get these reports after the free agency negotiations open that'll say the one I very clearly remember is Gary Harris has agreed to a new contract with the Orlando Magic. And it was okay as a free agent. And then it came out, no, that was actually an extension that he agreed to. So going back to this new contract or extension, the Bulls really couldn't replace Nikola Vucevic if they left him or let him leave. My challenge with this one is I don't have a problem if the Bulls had said, go, we'll play center X. We don't really care because we're going to trade DeMar DeRozan. We'll see if we can trade Zach LaVine, and we're going to tear this whole thing down to the studs and start over as best we can. But they're not going to do that. They've never done that. That's not who they are. When they've been a team that's picked high in the draft, it's because they've just been a bad team, not a purposely bad team. So I kind of expected him to get a deal like this. Vucevic, the player, this is fine. 17 and 11 each of the last 2 seasons.
He's good.
Shoots a good percentage, right? Yeah, he's not a great defender. Fully get that, but he's passable. You can make it work and in the right kind of scheme with the right kind of guys around him. Pretty good passer. So I have no problem with 20 million. This is, I think, a lot of what I saw was Bulls fans just very angry because it's like, cool. So 10 to 7 seed again, and that's where
that's what I'm saying. You're signing up for more of the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I get it, right? That part of it I can't argue, but the value for Vooch, the player, it's fine. Very tradable deal. This will come with a 6-month trade restriction, but whatever, that doesn't matter. He's doing it here at the end of June. That'll be up long, but right around when trade season begins anyway. So, so we'll see, how this all comes together ultimately in the long run. But I think the value is perfectly fine for Vooch.
Yeah, just to put a bow on this, he starts this extension on the Bulls. I don't think the Bulls are the team paying him at the end of this deal. I think he gets traded somewhere else.
Yep.
And this is fine. Look, if you're this is your way. Like, this is what the Wizards didn't do and got a lot of criticism for it because they just let guys walk away. I think I would prefer this route. If I'm a Bulls fan, if the plan is indeed, hey, we're going to sign to this deal and we're taking the gamble that he doesn't have some catastrophic injury between now and whenever, we put him on the market, but we're going to make sure that we don't let him just walk away for nothing. We're going to get some kind of asset when later on this year or next year, or whenever we do eventually decide to pull the trigger and move on.
Yep, two thoughts too. Let's see if there is some kind of team protection on that final season. If there is, it'll look a lot different. And
Yep.
also, we'd be talking about this deal very, very differently if it was like 35 or 40 million average annual value.
Sure.
Then it'd be like, well, what world are we doing here? 20? Whatever, that's fine. It's less than what he made last year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. This was a real surprise, Keith. This move, Taurean Prince had his option declined at 7 million and change. I thought this was like a very fair value deal, a good value for Minnesota. And I went, oh, they're picking that. Like when I'm looking at the list of options out there, I go, okay, clearly that's getting picked up. And yet they declined the option. Now I know there's some opportunity cost. Had they picked this up, there's some things they can do now by declining this, but this was a surprise. And apparently it was a surprise to Taurean Prince as well, who took to Twitter to thank Adrian Wojnarowski for letting him know about it. I always love when athletes do that, just kind of like let everybody know exactly what's really going on. But I was shocked that the Wolves decided to let him go at that price tag.
Yeah, and to be clear on this, and this is no criticism of you because that's how the reporting came down. He's actually being waived. This was a non-guaranteed contract. The
Okay.
reporting, I believe, did say option. And there is a difference. It's not meaningful enough to really get into or care, but he's going to be waived from this deal. At the end of the day, he won't be on the Wolves books next season for any amount of money. So yeah, I mean, hey, I'm a little surprised too. Rotation player, he's not the best, but he's a perfectly serviceable rotation forward, to have in your mix there. I think somebody's going to get a good player now in free agency that they wouldn't have otherwise. You said for the Wolves what this opportunity cost. This should open up the full non-taxpayer MLE for them, which is about 12.4 million. They've been linked to Bruce Brown, which actually would be a great pickup for them if they could get him. Well, what a good fit he would be. So if that kind of plays out that way, that would be interesting because it also has the benefit of weakening a division rival in the Denver Nuggets. So we'll see. I mean, that could just be speculation and maybe nothing happens that way. But yeah, this one a little bit surprising, but I kind of get it if you're like, he does a lot of the same things Kyle Anderson does as far as playing the same position. We have Jaden McDaniels. We've got the three bigs now locked in too. It's just we got to rebalance the roster a little bit, and that's the cost of things. Yeah, and as far as no player should ever find out through the media. Like you shouldn't find out you were traded, waived, whatever through tweets like that. There should be a phone call that you had first from somebody with the team. You would imagine.
Yes, absolutely. And we got in other just bonkers news that we got today. I guess the Wolves, they had their reason for why they did this, but it was a surprise. NBA teams, I hope you are employing speed readers in your salary cap department, because the new CBA, 48 hours away from free agency starting up, 600 and however many some odd pages. I want to say like 647 or something.
676.
Even better. 676 pages shows up 2 days before free agency is set to start. And so teams now have to scramble to figure out what is in here just in case, because you never know. Maybe something wasn't reported, something they get snuck in. And this is not like light reading. You know what I mean? You're not sitting down and reading Calvin and Hobbes or Family Circus here or something like that. This is like legal document reading where every single line can have a ton of information and really important stuff packed in. And so reading a page can take a long time.
It's a legal document. It's not.
Yeah.
Legal documents are not meant to be fun reads, right? It's
No.
not pop it in, light read. While I'm killing time here. I had a front office executive this morning when they still didn't have it, and there was no definite sense of like we're gonna get it today. This was the exact quote to me: "We're taxiing onto the runway and about to take off, but we don't have all of our instruments working, and the co-pilot is going to be finishing flight school while we're in the air." That's not true, right? That is kind of how it's all coming together. So yeah, now I will say this with the new CBA, the term sheet was pretty conclusive. with what the changes are. I had things flagged in there that I wanted clarity on that I've kind of highlighted, and then I will get into stuff with things. Ultimately, where I look at in this. Woj just tweeted in a letter to players, NBPA says new CBA will provide a projected 250 million collective increase in salaries and benefits next season. All right, we'll see. Possible. And with new TV deal looming in 2025 and other revenue streams, a very real hope is that we might earn 50 billion in salaries and benefits over a 7-year term. And I think that's probably where that's probably in range, right, with what this is happening. Now, some of that would have happened anyway with the media rights deal and the everything, increasing, but yeah, I mean the players did not do bad here. Like there was a lot of hand wringing about what how bad the players did and how it's no good. But in general, I think that's skipping over a lot of things they did get, especially investment opportunities and things like that. So, but yeah, 676 pages, table of contents, 22 pages all by itself. That's before you even get into the document. So,
good Lord.
Yeah, there's a lot, and I'll be that's how my night is going to be spent, my friend.
Hang on, let me go buy some stock in the various energy drink companies because people they're going to be just powering through that, no question. Keith, we have this is kind of a breaking rumor, I suppose.
Oh,
this is coming from Mike Singer of the Denver Post. One team with significant interest in signing Bruce Brown away from the Nuggets is the Lakers, with a full mid-level exception offer. Nuggets can only offer him $7.8 million. I would have to imagine there's going to be a lot of teams but that also coincides with a little something I heard earlier today. So interesting, something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, to me, the Bruce Brown part of it is less interesting than the Lakers having the full mid-level.
Yes, sir.
That's the part that gets more interesting. I just wrote about them today at Spot Track for their offseason preview. And one of the things I said is a lot of their offseason depends on what happens with their own free agents, right? It's not necessarily even about re-signing them. It's how much they re-sign those guys for. That's going to dictate, where everything goes, moving forward for the Lakers. So in a big chunk of that. I do want to correct something I said the other day, just since we're on the Lakers topic.
Mm-hmm.
When we were talking about Austin Reeves and I was just throwing around money figures just to do math, I said 120 million offer sheet. That's too much. He can't be offered that much.
It's like 100.
It's right around 100 basically. So that was a bad example used by me, but a couple people who are cap savvy and seem to understand the stuff or have been reading the 9 million articles that have been published about Austin Reeves did call it out. So yes, it's roughly 100 million and in there, that's where it would go. So
there's all kinds of numbers flying around this time of year, but so if this is
mid-level,
if this has any legs to it as well, what you're going to see happen is tomorrow is the deadline for the Lakers to make their decisions on Mo Bamba's non-guaranteed deal and Malik Beasley's contract option, the club option there. I expect both of those to be declined if there is any legs to this. And again, the Lakers probably already have a sense of whether or not they really have a shot at Bruce Brown. Obviously, his fit would be great. His fit would be great a lot of places, but that's the caliber of player that they would make those kind of moves to make sure that they do have the full mid-level exception in terms of cutting loose some contracts and doing some things to make sure that they get that full MLE and then potentially using that to bring in a guy like Bruce Brown.
Yeah, I tend to think Mo Bamba will be waived either way, just because 10.3 million is a lot for what he is as a player right now. And that even if you do stay over the cap, that's going to push you closer to the tax than you're probably comfortable with, meaning the tax aprons and the like, and just decreased flexibility. What Malik Beasley will be the real kind of key one to watch, because if they decline that team option, that says to me they're going to try to be players with that mid-level, not necessarily cap space, because I think that ship has sailed.
Exactly.
But the decline Beasley, that says they want to play with the mid-level, and that's a different kind of thing, which is becomes a whole other interesting kind of subplot here to this, because I think we've all collectively kind of considered them a tax MLE team to this point. So that'll be fun to watch play out.
If that goes down, if it's Bruce Brown, and if any of the other things at this time of year, you hear a million things, right? But there's a few other things that are out there. I think Lakers fans will be very happy with their offseason if it goes with what we've been hearing. But there's so much in the wind right now. You never really know.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly, what we're looking at for tomorrow, with those options for Beasley, for Bamba, Bamba being non-guaranteed, not an option, but that is going to be very, very telling. And so something to keep an eye on for Lakers fans. All right.
In general, too, I'll just add one last thing. It's not really Lakers specific, but when it's a beat writer from another team suggesting that someone may be interested in them, it usually should pique your interest a little bit, because what happens sometimes with beat writers that cover a team, this happens within the Celtics sometimes, is you'll get fed stuff from the team that says, hey, we're interested in this and this and this. And sometimes it's like, yeah, but can you even do that? When it's coming in through from someone who's not associated with covering a team, there's not really generally a lot of speculation in there or anything like that. Sometimes there is. I'm not going to say that's not always the case, but Mike Singer's really good. He does a great job covering the Nuggets. So if he's saying this, there's probably something to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree 100%. And here we go. Let's get ready for free agency to start up on Friday. All right, let's move on. And let's get to Brook Lopez leaning towards staying with the Bucks. Not a surprise at all. Given what we saw Vucevic just get, did that just kind of set the Brook Lopez market?
It's a good question. Yeah, him and Jakob Poeltl both, right? Yeah. Probably to some extent they're probably both going to be like, all right, give us 20 million too. I would imagine, at least in that range. I've been advocating both of them to get around that level of salary. So yeah, that's a good call out.
So not a surprise if he stays with them. He was a defensive player of the year candidate, and he's a great fit there in Milwaukee. So I would be surprised if he went anywhere else, with the exception of maybe the Houston Rockets come in and just blow him away with a huge offer. But that would require, I think, the Rockets to miss on some of their other targets to get to that.
Yeah, and I think too, Chris Middleton's in a similar, different kind of boat, but similar boat, where I think it's going to be the same thing. I think unless the team absolutely blows him away, he's back in Milwaukee too. I think the Bucks they'll make moves around the edges, but probably going to look pretty similar to the team we've seen the last couple of years, and mostly running it back.
All right, let's move on to the Rockets themselves. They apparently have a 2-year offer lined up for Fred VanVleet. A really big 2-year offer with $85 million.
Yeah, it started out as 80, then it was like 83 and change. And I'm like, where are these numbers coming from? Like, just round it off. Nothing's done yet. But yeah, it's somewhere between 80 and 85 million, which is an absurd number.
That would be like the Raptors would probably just have to throw their hands up and say, well, I mean,
yeah,
go for it. That's a lot. Texas. That's a lot for Fred VanVleet. But I do wonder if that's already out there, that the Rockets kind of have this, is that more confirmation that James Harden is staying in Philly?
Yeah, maybe. It's at least confirmation Houston doesn't feel good about getting James Harden, unless it's all a smoke screen, right? I don't know. We're seeing, I mean, the Harden stuff's all over the place. It's not quite the Damian Lillard story, which I think we hit on. What we're going to say is like sands through the hourglass, so go the dames of our lives, right? It's just perfect. Now people are like, what in the world is he talking about? Days of our lives. People, that's the start to the show. Soap operas. I watched them with my grandma all the time.
Back in the day.
Yeah. Stay home from school and watch soap operas with grandma right after The Price is Right. But yeah, man, it's, I hate this. Like, I don't like, why Houston? And that's nothing against, good for Fred VanVleet. I hope he gets, $80 million. Like, that's awesome for him. But I don't know. I don't love that fit. I don't like the Rockets seem to be, hey, let's accelerate this whole thing and push all in. Not a big fan of that whole idea. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan, but yeah, to your point, yeah, it might be a sense of, all right, Harden's not coming. Yeah. Harden's not coming. It's got to be Philly. I can't imagine somebody else is jumping in there with a deal for Harden. People keep throwing could this team sign and trade for him? Not in any realistic way, because they'd end up hard capped, and that becomes a whole problem of itself.
People always go to sign and trades as a way to make the impossible possible, and they're just rare. They just don't happen very often, and for good reason. Just logistically, they're tough to pull off. But that tends to be the go-to. Like, we don't have enough cap space to get them. Oh, sign and trade. We're going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Easy.
Oh man, nobody else thought of that. Good
Oh
job.
my
You
God.
know,
What?
good job, Joe
Oh
Hoops
yeah.
fan 89451 on Twitter. Well done, sir.
He's the Twitter egg.
Yeah, great.
All right. Kyrie, is it even still the egg? It's
I
just
don't
kind of the
know.
grayed
I
out
think
picture now.
is it a
Anyway.
bird? I don't know what it is now. That's a good question. I was an egg for a very long time on Twitter.
Just
I didn't have a profile
as you
picture. I
just as
didn't
your
really tweet for a long time.
right.
I've made up for it though.
in volume since then.
Yeah,
Staying in Texas.
Baby. Get those shots up.
Kyrie is expected to stay with the Dallas Mavericks. No surprise there. Exactly what we've been expecting. The only question is how many years, what kind of guarantees are on the deal, that sort of stuff. There's not a lot of other landing spots for Kyrie, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
And it makes all the sense in the world for him just to stay with the Mavs. They roll it forward and see what they can do. The question is, will DeAndre Ayton be joining him there? That's something we talked about on yesterday's show. But I do think the Mavs continue to build around Kyrie, Luka, and then we'll see what they do after that.
What how long of a money, let's assume max-ish money, how long of a contract would you give Kyrie?
I think 3 years.
Yeah, that's where I felt
if you take it, I think 3 years makes sense.
Yep.
He obviously would want more years, but if I had him over a barrel and I can tell him like exactly how many years, it's like a 2-year deal. I think he's going to want 4. And so I'm thinking you settle in the middle. 3 years.
Yeah, I'd either do 3. If I was doing 4, I'd need protections on that 4th year. Either it's not guaranteed and he can get it to be guaranteed by either, performance, team performance, or, whatever games played, whatever the triggers were, or I'd want it, straight up protections. 3 years feels good. That seems to be almost kind of his shelf life too, to an extent, is 2-3 years, and then things tend to go a little sideways on that one. So all right, as per usual, we're right around on the same page.
All right, Taylor Horton Tucker picks up his option, had a player option for this coming season, just over $11 million for what he's going to make with the Utah Jazz. They let him kind of go nuts at the end of the season when they were resting a lot of players. It was just THT, go ahead, go do your thing. And he put up some big nights, scoring the ball, getting assists and rebounds. Not the most efficient, but he did put up some big nights, and he's going to pick up that option, and he'll be a unrestricted free agent next summer in 2024. So this will be a big, important season for him in Utah.
And important to note, this doesn't really change anything for the Jazz. I mean, in theory, yes, they could have opened up more cap space had he declined his option and they moved on. But this was always the expectation, is they would opt in, because one of the decisions you have to make is, especially for a player his age, is that kind of money going to be waiting for me anywhere else in a single season or in a first season of a deal? It's probably not. This summer, he's probably not a mid-level target for anybody as far as using the full mid-level. So that means, all right, I'm gonna pick it up and maybe has another good year, and then hit free agency next year when maybe a better market develops for him. Jazz still, though, pending what happens with Jordan Clarkson, could still have around $28 million in cap space this summer. So a lot more to come for Utah.
All right, another former Utah Jazz player. Lakers have guaranteed Jared Vanderbilt's contract. We knew this months ago. It's a no-brainer. $4.7 million for Jared Vanderbilt.
One of the best deals in the league.
Absolutely. There was no question they were going to do this, and now he'll be under contract on a very, very cheap, team-friendly deal for next season, and then he'll be getting a new contract after that, hitting free agency in the summer of 2024, and we'll see where things go from there.
And I think he'll be even better this next year with the Lakers, a little bit more comfortable. You could tell at times he just kind of, there were times where I think he just wasn't in the right places, and he just kind of almost messed up actions and that stuff. But that comes with time, right? And he'll now have a full off season in camp and everything to work through. So I think I saw some people last night that were a little like, is he really? Do we really need him? Yeah, you do. He's really, really good, and for $4.7 million, you need him and you want him. So,
and he just turned 24. Like, he's younger than Austin Reeves, which most people don't realize. But there's still plenty of upside here with Jared Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I like Jared. It kills me that he's a Laker, man, because you know how much I love that guy.
Yeah, I know. All right, let's talk about the Pistons. They pick up the option on Alec Burks.
No surprise.
Yeah, not a surprise that they did. What is it, 12 million?
A little over 10.
Okay.
Yeah, a little over 10. When they didn't trade him at the trade deadline a year ago, it was a sign that they were gonna pick this option up. We'll see if he lasts the year on the Pistons. I don't know that he will or won't, but he's part of the fold for now. 30 million in cap space for Detroit on Friday.
Yeah. Yep.
Saturday, technically, but
technically, right. And last thing we've got, Javon Carter. This declines his player option. I am a Javon Carter fan. I like his game so much. But declines his player option. Could wind up staying in Milwaukee. We'll see what they ultimately do there. But I do think he's going to have suitors out there on the market. I don't know what the price tag is going to be, how high the bidding might go for him. But I mean, a lot of teams say we want a scrappy, tough defensive point guard who can hit high on a high efficiency from three. That's exactly what Javon Carter does. And so I do think he's going to be in demand. I don't think he's going to break the bank to get him or anything, but he's a very solid, very sturdy, dependable reserve guard.
Javon Carter played in 81 games last year. That's huge. Started 39, pretty good. Averaged 8 points per game. Do you know what he shot from three last year with the Bucks?
41%.
Really close, 42.1%.
42. I knew it was right there.
Yeah, right there. He's at just a tick under at 39.7%. So just under 40% for his career from three, and lifted his volume 4.2 attempts per game last year as well. Tough defensive guy. Want to very quick, because I know we got to go. One of my favorite Twitter interactions in the bubble. I didn't know Javon Carter wore two different colored sneakers. I didn't know that was a whole thing. And so I remembered in the bubble, I was tweeting, right? Wow, Javon Carter, is he wearing two different sneakers? His mom replied to me and was like, he does wear two different sneakers. And, and then she's like, he's been doing it a long time. He started doing it back when he was in college and all that stuff. And I just, I love it, man. Moms are the best. They're the best.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Javon Carter's mom sticking up for him on Twitter. So I like him even more. That only adds to his free agent value, right? Not only you get Javon Carter, but you get the support of his mom's Twitter account.
And maybe he can buy a pair of sneakers instead of one of each, and then he can wear the same ones. I think it's fun, though.
That's the problem.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, imagine he has multiple pairs. Do you think it's always like, I always wear the left of one color and the right of another? I'm gonna have to deep dive in August and find out more about this. And then what happens to the other shoe? Do you throw it away?
Yeah.
Like, what
does
happens?
he mix match style? Like, is one a high top and one's a low top?
No, I think they're the same.
That would be funky.
Yeah, I think they're the same. I think it's like, I'm not a huge sneaker guy. I think it's the same shoe and it's just different colorways, right? Where it's like one would be red and one would be black and those kind of things. But yeah, and I mean, I'm all for it. It's fun. It's the NBA I grew up on in the 80s was like you had to pick a color of shoes at the beginning of the season, and that was it. And the Celtics always wore black sneakers, and everyone had to wear black on the entire roster. And then eventually they changed over to white. And they would stoop for the dumbest reason. It was because Larry Bird said, the black sneakers, we just all look slow and clunky and not fast. Like, let's switch to white. We'll look faster. So there was.
It's reminds me of a documentary that I used to go over with my students all the time when we were looking at the post-World War II era and 1950s corporate culture as it started to emerge. And a guy said, our company had a policy where we were allowed to wear any color tie that we wanted as long as it was black. and that's the way it used to be in the NBA. Now we're seeing all these different colors, different variations of shoes, all that kind of stuff, which is a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah, express yourself, however you want, as long as it's appropriate and you're good. Have fun. It should be fun, right? Sports should be fun.
100%. All right, everybody. I want to thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel, over on the podcast side as well, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. Free agency starts up just a few days. Can't wait. So again, we're going to keep you up to date with everything going on in the basketball world. Until next time, see ya and stay safe.